Now you're listening to Fantastic Formosa with Jon Abrams in Taipei. Okay, hey, welcome back to Fantastic Formosa. We have a new guest today. She is from Brazil, and that'll be I'm looking forward to this conversation because Brazil, to me, represents Rio. All right, Rio de
Janeiro.
And when I think of that, I think of the beaches, beautiful women, I guess, right? And I think about the famous statue of Jesus with his arms.
Christ, the Redeemer.
That's it overlooks the beach, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so, tell us about yourself. How do you pronounce your name?
Okay, so my name is Beatriz. Actually, in Portuguese, is Beatriz. And you guys have the same name, Beatriz, with C in the end in English.
Okay. See, because Americans are very ignorant about everything. You have a Z at the end of your name, so
yes.
It's not X, it's Z.
No, it's a Z.
All right. So Beatriz is what I want to say, but it's actually Beatriz.
You can just say Beatriz, like it would sound in English.
Unfortunately, I have to, I guess. In Brazil, you were born and raised in Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay, where?
So I was born and raised in the countryside of the state of São Paulo.
Oh.
So usually people know the city of São Paulo because it's one of the biggest in the world, right? But they don't really know anything further than
the folks
the city.
You mean people that watch or know something about Brazil only know about that?
They usually know about the city of São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro.
Why São Paulo? Why is it a tourist place? Or?
It's very touristy, but it's actually the business capital of Brazil. So, like the tourism capital is usually Rio because of the beaches. São Paulo doesn't have a beach, but because it's one of the biggest cities in the world, it has a lot of businesses. Right. So, a lot of the expat communities that go to Brazil, they go to São Paulo because that's where the big companies are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I come from the countryside of the state of São Paulo. Mm-hmm. So it's around 350 kilometers from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you actually grew up in the countryside.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean exactly? Did you live on a farm?
I mean, the region where I come from is actually a very developed region. Mm-hmm. We have always been relying on agriculture. So in my region specifically, we grow a lot of coffee, oranges, and sugarcane. And the economy of our cities have developed around these industries. Mm-hmm. But my parents were born and raised in a farm. So
a real farm.
A real farm, yes.
With cows and pigs?
Exactly. Okay. So my mom, when she was still a toddler, her parents moved to my city, which is called Ribeirão Preto. So it's a big city. It has 600,000 people. So, yeah, like more than 500,000 people. It's a big city.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And my dad was born in a farm in another city. Now the city has 7,000 people. So when he was a teenager, his parents and like his family moved to this city, but we still lived in the outskirts of the city, not like in the city center. So yeah, we still had a lot of opportunities of going back to the farm. And my aunt and my uncle, they still work in the farm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But now they've changed the industry to raising fish.
Fish.
Yeah.
Interesting. Fish ponds, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
like they kind of transformed part of the farm into kind of a country club. Like people go there for one day to fish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there is like
Alright.
a little restaurant that are like some horses. The kids can ride on horses, and like it's just like a 1 day experience. So families can go out of the city, spend the day there, and then in the end of the day they go back home. So they do this, and because people go there to fish, in the other part of the farm, they actually developed, like my aunt is a biologist, so they actually developed like an area where they can raise fish and like help them reproduce. And then some other people around Brazil, if they want to buy like 1 ton of fish, they will ask them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ton.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this must be
because
big.
when you're in this kind of like industry, the quantities are usually pretty big, right?
Yeah, of course, but I can't imagine buying a ton of fish. Hey, Bob, send me a ton of fish. Sure, we'll throw it in a truck tomorrow. So how do they process these fish? Do they actually just pull up the nets and
because
dump them into
usually like their customers are people who also own this type of business.
Oh,
in Brazil, it's called like fish and pay. So
fish and what?
Fish and pay.
Fish and pay.
Yeah, it's a type of farm in Brazil that like people from the city, maybe they don't have a lake around them, maybe they don't have a place, that they can go to spend some time, have some leisure time, and then like they will go to these type of farms, and usually it's the dads, they like to fish. So while like the fathers are fishing, maybe like the kids are playing soccer or riding on the horses.
That must be fun.
Yes. So like they have specific activities for each person of the family. And then like what you fish in that place, you can choose to just put it back in the water and release the fish. But if you want to take it home, then you catch the fish and you give it to an employee, and they will help you to skin the fish and prepare it so you can take it home. And then you pay for that fish that you just fished.
Good.
Yeah, so it's a very kind of common business model, especially in my state, because like we're in the countryside, we don't have the beach, and we don't have mountains around us to go hiking. So usually like people came up with a new idea of how to spend 1 day, doing different activities.
Right. Wow. And we have these things here called shrimp fishing, I guess it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen those with little swimming pool things? And they have, I don't understand the attraction, but yeah, they fish for shrimp and they can cook it there. And
yeah, I mean, I think that actually these shrimp businesses here, they are kind of the first steps of this business in Brazil, because in Brazil they actually, like as I said, they have like a soccer field. Usually they have someone with the horses, so if the kids want to ride horses, they will have like an employee guiding them. Usually they have like activities for the kids, and they have different spaces, they have restaurants and all of that. So like in Brazil, usually these establishments, they are much bigger, and you can do more activities than just fish.
Okay.
Yeah, but here in Taiwan, usually you just go there and fish the shrimps, and that's it.
Wow. That's one of the biggest shocks I had when I came to Taiwan, were these very strange fishing for shrimp. I didn't understand the total the allure of fishing for shrimp. It just didn't make any sense to me. So you grew up in that environment, and I guess did you help them with the horses or the fish, or what did you do when you went out there to help your family?
We would usually go there on the weekends or like in our summer vacations.
Oh, work the summers?
Yeah.
It's called slavery.
Well, when it's a family business, then it kind of like it's expected of you to help them in some way, right?
Right.
So like I remember when we were young, and that's completely unsanitary, but like I remember when we were young, my cousins and I swimming in the fish reservoir.
Really?
Yeah.
With all those fish? I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like it would be a little crowded.
Yes, like you could literally just feel them swimming around you because like those
biting your hairs and your legs, maybe.
I mean, they don't bite; they're just there, you know. But I guess that this type of life kind of prepared me to the real world. And
oh, really? How's that?
I mean,
fishing with sharks or swimming with sharks is what we call it in the real world.
I don't think it would be like this, but you know, because I had this opportunity of living both in the city and having a contact with
That's a
the
great
farm.
Great combination.
Yeah, so I kind of like, it's not that I developed like a thick skin, but I just became more tolerant of some stuff, and like I'm usually not scared of any animals, you know, if there is like a cockroach or if there is a snake or a spider or something.
Snakes might get my attention, but
I mean, like, it's not that I will be there and wait for it to bite me, right? But it's just like if I see a snake, I will not panic. If I see a spider, I will not panic.
Do you have poisonous spiders and snakes in Brazil?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
One of the most poisonous ones is in Brazil.
So you didn't... I would think that you would be a little cautious around snakes.
Of course, like, you need to be cautious. You know, when I say that, like, I will not panic, it doesn't mean that I will just
jump up
actively go after them. It just means that, like, if I see them, I know how to react properly. You know, I will not panic when I see them. And this, even, like, in city life, because here in Taiwan and in many cities in Brazil, if people had... like they have never had any contact with these animals and they don't know what to do. It's really easy for them to, you know, be scared of like a cockroach or a spider in their home. That is probably like an apartment spider that is not.
My wife is very afraid of cockroaches and spiders.
Yes, and like this doesn't happen with me.
Of course not. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in a farming community too, so there's nothing that shocks me. City kids just don't have that relationship with nature.
Exactly, and I think that, you know, more than just prepare me to these encounters with animals, I feel that having the opportunity to be always in touch with this type of environment actually made me realize, like, what are the values that I want for my life and, like, what's the type of life that I want. Yeah, and I don't know, I feel that I was pretty sure of the life that I wanted when I was like 18 years old, 20 years old.
That's
and then
early.
once I came to Taiwan, I had this big shock because, you know, I came straight to Taipei. It was my first international experience.
Wow.
And I just felt like overwhelmed, and I just learned to value so much the place where I come from because I miss it so much sometimes.
Yeah. I had the same experiences, even though I hated the farm. I like, oh wow, look at everything I learned and how it changed me, and yet I spent weeks and months maybe just being bored. But yeah, it was a great experience actually. So you went to high school there, obviously, and then you went to college there, or did you come here first?
Not actually. So I graduated high school in my city, and then when I was 17 years old, I got accepted to a university.
All right.
And
In Brazil.
It was in Brazil, but in another state, like
Okay.
350 kilometers from my city.
Too far. Better to go to Taiwan.
I feel it is okay. I mean,
All right.
350 kilometers, you can do it maybe like in 3 hours by car.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so I went to the city to study international relations.
All right.
And then when I was there, like in that university, I had the opportunity of coming to Taiwan.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were in school, university, studying international relations.
Yes.
And you were there how long?
I stayed there for 2 years.
And you...
And then
is there a degree program? Or
yeah, it was a bachelor's degree.
Did you finish it, or did you decide to...
Not actually. I transferred to Taiwan.
All right. See?
So
Yeah,
I feel that maybe it's a little bit different from the other, international community experiences here.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, I came here to work. So during that time in Brazil, we were having some strikes in the universities because of governmental funding. So like professors and like the employees of federal universities.
Oh, it's a federal program.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, the federal universities in Brazil, they are the best ones. But of course, they have really strong. It's not a labor union like in the U.S., but it's kind of like the same thing in Brazil. So they have like a very strong kind of movement of the employees, like that work for the universities and the Ministry of Education. So in that time, in 2015. There were some issues with the governmental funding, and they were striking for a couple of months already. So I had no classes, and I was like, okay, I have no classes now. I hate my job because at that time
what job is this?
I was an unpaid intern.
Oh, it's always unpaid.
Yeah, and like I felt it was very abusive, you know. And then I was like, okay, I'm working for ISEC. Are you familiar with ISEC?
Is that an acronym?
Yes.
What is it? ISK or?
It's AISEC.
No, what is that?
Actually, like it's a global organization made by young people for young people. So they have 2 types of programs. Like their goal is to develop leadership in younger people. So they have 2 types of programs. One of them is you can go from like 6 weeks up to 12 weeks, do a volunteer in another country.
Right.
And then like you will not get paid, but you will probably have accommodation, you'll have like some benefits and you can travel around. Or you can do paid internships from 6 months to 1.5 years. In another country as well. So my job in that organization was to actually meet with Brazilian companies and convince them that they needed to hire, that it would be beneficial for them to hire an international intern, so they get like more globalized and all of that. And then once they signed the contract with us, we would find someone from other country to go to Brazil and work there for like 6 months to a year. So I was already familiar with this program, and then I thought like, okay, I do this now for Brazil. So what if I am the one to go to another country? And then I started applying for jobs in other countries. I actually was accepted to go to Russia. I was going to Tomsk. Okay. Yeah, because I was studying Russian at that time, and I've always been fascinated by Russian culture and history. Amazing. And I've always wanted to go there. So like I got accepted to go to Russia. For a human resources internship, and it was not really
not paid, right?
It was paid, yeah, but like because Russian rubles, they are almost the same as reais, like Brazilian reais. So it's not a much, it's not a huge pay in dollars, but it was a good amount, So I was with everything ready to go to Russia. And then one day I received an email saying that Din Tai Fung, it's like the restaurant here in Taiwan, very famous restaurant. And they were looking for someone, and they were offering like a higher pay and even like a part of my ticket to Taiwan.
Wow.
And me, as a broke university student, I decided to come to Taiwan. Yeah.
And work in a restaurant.
Yeah, so I did a public relations internship in Din Tai Fung.
Great. My gosh. So you got to, you had many choices, and you chose Taiwan. That's great.
Yeah.
And you came here, and you did your internship, and then what happened?
I transferred my undergrad here because this was happening in the middle of my bachelor's degree. So I had studied already 2 years in Brazil. And my internship here was supposed to last only 9 months. And that's like how much I stayed. But then I decided that okay, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to learn Chinese properly, because I was just trying to learn as life goes on. I was
life experience learning. That's
exactly. But I was working full time, so I didn't have a lot of time nor familiarity with the Taiwanese scenario of learning Chinese.
Right, you weren't in a proper class.
Yes, so I decided that I could stay in Taiwan, and I applied for 3-4 universities here in Taiwan. And I told them, what if I want to transfer some of my credits from Brazil to this university? Would you guys accept that? And then 2 of them said that they could accept, but not all of them. They needed to, pick and choose which ones are similar, the most similar with their curriculum here. So I transferred my undergrad, and then I went to live in Ilan, in Jiaoxi.
Wow.
Yeah, which is, for the listeners, it's a very small city.
Yes.
I'm not really sure, maybe 10,000 people in Jiaoxi.
Sure, it's small.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
So you were probably the only, it's a university program.
It's in the Tankang University,
right.
Global Politics and Economics.
Did you live on campus or did you live off campus?
I lived on campus because their campus was on the top of the mountain in Jiaoxi, and they had a dorm there, and it was pretty affordable. Clean, so I decided to live on campus, and I stayed there for 1 year. Yeah. Then I started my double major in international business. Right. And then I needed to come back to New Taipei City because the required courses of my second major were not offered in that place. So I needed to move again, and then I came to New Taipei City and started living in Tamsui.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
You don't like to live in the big cities?
Not really.
All right. Well, I like Tamsui. It's on the ocean, and you got beautiful breeze, and except for typhoons, it's a great place to live. I go up there sometimes with my children and enjoy the weekends. But yeah, great for you. And you've been there how long now? Or have you finished that program?
Yes. I finished my double major.
Double major?
Yes. My first major is global political economy.
Right.
The one that I did in Ilan.
All right.
And the other one is international business that I did in Tamsui. So it's a double major degree for my undergraduate. And then for my master's, I did Taiwan and Asia Pacific Studies.
Which is what? Is it political, government? What is that? Economic? cultural?
Actually, like when you're in master's degree, you can choose by yourself which area you want to focus on, because the program only has a few required courses, like research methodology or like Southeast Asia economy, for example, and politics. So you can pick the ones that fit your plan of study well, and then you focus on that.
Folks that are listening in, she just mentioned the phrase research methodologies, and different subject areas, whether they're medical or social science or history, even have different research methodologies that you have to learn to use to do your research. So, great, excellent. And you did finish your master's?
Yes.
And so at that point, you're like, what do you do now, right? So do you go and get your Ph.D. here, or do you go back home, or do you go off in the world and make yourself rich and famous? I don't know. So you chose to stay.
Yes, I chose to stay because at that time, when I was during my master's degree, that's when I met my husband.
I see.
Yes. So, but once I graduated from my master's degree, my husband still had a couple of years here in Taiwan until he graduated, until he finished his undergrad.
So you're a bit older than him.
Yes, I'm 2 years older than him. And then, like...
You're what we call in America robbing the cradle.
I don't think so. It's only a couple of years.
Just joking. It's a phrase in America we use sometimes, but good for you. So you met him and you thought, well, he's got a couple years left, right?
Yes, and at that time, because of visa issues, then I could not stay in Taiwan much longer.
Under your visa requirements?
Yeah, because once you graduate, you automatically lose your visa, right? Your student ARC.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity of extending my ARC for 6 months and try to find a full-time job. But I knew that I didn't want an office job because at that time I was already, starting to think about going into the academic career and really like doing my Ph.D. and teaching at university level. So I thought it didn't really make sense for me to find like a entry-level job that would keep me busy for over 40 hours a week just so I could get that ARC.
That's a nightmare. 40 hours a week, this place, any place in the world is a standard number of hours you work for full time. So you decided to go enroll and get your PhD.
Yes, I applied for a PhD program. I was accepted, fortunately. And then I started my PhD. Right. Now at NCCU.
NCCU is a good program, but that's down south, right?
Yes, it's pretty far from my house.
The damnest way to there is, how long does it take you on an MRT?
Well, if you go on an MRT, it would take you maybe 2.5 hours.
That's crazy.
Yes, because, there is no direct line, so you need to change.
The brown line.
And in my case, from where my house is, you would need to take a bus first and then go to the MRT and change lines. And once you get there, you take another bus. So it would be around 2.5 hours. But fortunately, I have a driver's license here in Taiwan.
You have a driving license in
Taiwan? So...
I'm too scared to drive in Taiwan.
I was scared to drive in Taiwan. Driving a car still makes me a little bit nervous because of the sheer amount of motorcycles. And they do whatever they want on the streets. It's completely
kind of like
chaotic.
Birds flying around you, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. So it still makes me a little bit nervous. But if you're going through the highways or the expressways that don't allow scooters,
Sure, then you're safe.
then it's okay.
Reasonably safe.
Yeah, then it's okay because it's very smooth, and then it takes around 1 hour. And if I go by motorcycle from my house to the university, then it would be around 1 hour and 20 minutes. So I'm very fortunate. I can legally ride a scooter and drive in Taiwan, and I don't need to spend 2.5 hours commuting.
Wow, and you're obviously married, and you live in Damshui, and he goes to school there, so, right? I think.
He's tattooing.
I'm
there.
sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give it away, but yes, he was our previous guest on the show. He's a tattoo artist, and you met him in school. Why doesn't he move with you to Mucho? Because, hey, he's a tattoo artist. He can go anywhere he wants.
Actually, we don't really like that area. It's pretty expensive compared to Tamsui.
Yeah.
And we really enjoy being in Tamsui, close to the beach and the place where we live. I wouldn't say it's isolated because now we'll have a lot of new developments, right? But it's pretty peaceful compared to that area near the university. And since I'm a Ph.D. student, I don't need to go to the university every day.
I see.
I just go there once a week.
You have classwork? Is that done? Or?
It's already done.
All right.
I did all my classwork during the first years.
Your dissertation or okay?
Yeah, I'm doing the dissertation and just publishing articles.
Academic articles.
Yes.
Yeah, that's they call it. What do they call it? You have to publish or perish in academic circles. You have to publish your academic articles to maintain your status in the academic university level. So if you want to become an associate professor, to become, I believe, an assistant professor and then a full professor, they often look at your academic writings, right?
Yes. So it keeps you relevant.
Yes.
And it kind of proves that you are not only keeping up with time, but that you are also able to think critically about what's happening around the world and that you can produce knowledge, right? You can contribute to the academic community.
Right, critical thinking skills. I don't want a lot of folks might not understand the idea that the word critical can mean also criticizing somebody or something. But it can also mean critical thinking skills, your ability to use reason and logic to figure out how something works. Yeah, good. And a lot of young Americans, don't have any critical thinking skills. They're on TikTok and they've lost their minds. But good for you. So you're writing for what subject area in these academic publications?
So the area that I research is the diplomacy of China and Taiwan towards African nations. So for now, I have 2 case studies. The first case study is the small island of São Tomé and Príncipe in Africa, Western Africa. And they used to recognize Taiwan. And they used to have a lot of projects of cooperation with Taiwan. And then when Tsai Ing-wen got elected in 2016, they were the first country to break these diplomatic ties with Taiwan and recognize China.
It's money, I think. The dollar diplomacy, they call it, right?
Yeah, but you know that Taiwan and China, they are responsible for dollar diplomacy, right? It's just each country or each place, right? Because some people don't recognize Taiwan as a country. So Taiwan and China have different ways of getting to these countries. So now I'm just comparing what the public in this island feels about Taiwan and feels about China and the projects that they developed there. And we have Eswatini, that is a country that is a long-lasting ally of Taiwan. And I'm also collecting the public perception on what do they think about Taiwanese projects there and what's the level of awareness.
What kind of Taiwanese projects are we talking about? Bridges, roads, what? Education, hospitals?
Usually Taiwan focuses a lot on health projects.
Health, okay.
So, for example, in São Tomé and Príncipe, the Taiwanese missions there were responsible to basically eradicating malaria in the country.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So up until this day, the population there still remembers this impact.
Oh, wow.
And they are very fond of Taiwan because of that.
It saved lives.
Yes. And they usually take specialists, like, for example, in orthopedics. That is like a specialist that maybe they don't have a lot of physicians, a lot of doctors that specialize on those like orthopedics surgeries.
Orthopedic, right?
Yes,
Or
orthopedic.
Now, tell our listeners what that means.
It's the bone specialization
Right.
in medicine.
Right.
So like if someone broke a leg, for example, and it didn't heal properly and they still have a lot of pain,
right,
or if they have any conditions. So these type of specializations are not that common in these countries.
Right.
And then Taiwan would send, gynecologists, orthopedics, specialists in fertilization.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually Taiwan focuses a lot on the health areas and education because they do offer a lot of scholarships for these people to come study in Taiwan. And in Eswatini, it's the same. They are one of the countries with the highest percentage of HIV.
I see.
Yeah, and Taiwan helps a lot in this area. Sure. During the pandemic, they've also donated a lot of masks for them. So they have these cooperations, and China usually has another approach. So they usually focus more on infrastructure in those countries.
China builds roads and bridges, but they bring in their own people to do it. They don't train locals to build roads and bridges. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's usually something that is criticized in their projects. Of course, that we as scholars, we need to recognize the independence of those countries and stop infantilizing them, right? We need to believe that the African leaders and their nations can take decisions that are the best for their countries. In the case of São Tomé and Príncipe, I think that's very interesting because once they switched recognition to China, they've actually put in their in the document, right, that they sign that for these type of projects, they needed 70% of locals to be employed by them. Okay. So usually, the engineer or the architect, someone in a higher position is Chinese, but, the truck driver or the people who are actually building the walls, they are usually local.
You got to teach them skills and help them use those skills in the future to build a better infrastructure for their nation. That's a fascinating topic. And you, how much time do you think you have left in your Ph.D. program?
Hopefully only 1 year.
Oh.
I mean, this is my 4th year already.
Right.
And, my advisor, he thinks that because he graduated in 7 years, that I also need to take 7 years. But I'm not that positive. So I always joke with my husband and my friends that, like, if I don't finish this PhD soon it will finish me.
Yes, the PhD programs in America have gotten a lot of criticism because they become too long. And they could have finished them years earlier, but the advisors or the system and they lose a lot of these PhD potential dissertation folks because they do everything but the dissertation. And then they get out and they have spent so much money and they're in debt, loans, and they have nothing to show for it, no degree. So yes, it's a big problem in America for the PhD programs. I got a master's degree, and they paid for it, so I went ahead and did it. It's great. Are they paying for your program?
I actually have a scholarship from the government of Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not much, but it covers the tuition, and it covers at least the basic necessities here.
Does it give you a housing allowance?
It doesn't give me a housing allowance specifically, but every month we are paid in Taiwanese dollars. So,
okay.
I still work outside of that because it's not enough. But
yeah,
I feel that it's a great help because at least we don't get in debt with the school, because at least the school tuition is fully paid.
Right.
And the scholarship, the monthly allowance that we have, it's a great help for us.
So you're receiving that help for how long? Until you get your dissertation done, or?
It's maximum 4 years.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, if your advisor is saying 7 years and you're only getting 4 years of, scholarship money, then that's a problem for you.
Yes, that's exactly one of the biggest issues that I have with my advisor and the university program here in Taiwan, that if they really want to push you to stay the 7 years, then they should give you means to stay the 7 years. And that's one of the things I tell my advisor, I'm very fortunate that I have found a job teaching at a university level. So I'm already an adjunct teacher, and I'm very fortunate that I can still stay 1 year maybe over the 4 years of program. But I still, I feel that if I have already completed all the classwork, I've already completed the ethics in research course, I've already completed, the international conferences that we need to present our work, and the teaching experience and everything. So if I just need to finish my dissertation, and that's it, if it's done, so there is no reason for keeping me here.
I hear you. What we say in America is, I feel your pain. I feel your pain, in meaning that I know what it's like to go through that same experience. But that's why I didn't do a PhD, because too many of my friends said, no, don't do it. It's get another master's degree, but don't do a PhD unless you're going to teach in university. And is that your ultimate plan, to teach in the university level, or?
Yes, I hope so. I'm already teaching at university, but I'm still an adjunct teacher.
I see.
Yeah, so it's only a part-time.
Right.
But I have been doing this for a couple of years already, and I hope that when I graduate and finally get my PhD diploma, I hope that I'll have more opportunities.
Yeah, in America, adjunct professors are just part-time, often contract workers in America, and they're paid a terrible wage in America. And many of them end up sleeping in their cars in America. It's quite shocking. So the universities in America are getting some criticism because they charge so much money for what? These contractors that they can just use and abuse. And they won't hire them full-time, even though they're great teachers. But in your case, you're still working on your PhD. And in America, we would call that a teaching assistantship, that you get paid to teach, I hope. It's called a TA position, teaching assistantship.
I was already a TA, so you have the teaching assistant position. Then you have a research assistant for your advisor, so you help the advisor with their research. But what I do now is actually a teacher in another university. So it's another university that hired me to be an adjunct teacher.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. So they are paying you something.
Yes,
All
it's
right.
not great. So what you were saying about America, it's actually a global phenomena.
Really?
Yeah, we call it the adjunctification of university.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like really, it's been harder and harder to get tenure track positions, you know.
Full-time tenure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what usually happens is that these universities, they hire a bunch of adjunct teachers, give them like 1 or 2 classes per week, and they don't need to pay for any like labor insurance or like health insurance because they are not
medical.
and they're not sponsoring, like in my case, they are not sponsoring my visa here in Taiwan, right? So they don't need, the taxes that they pay are much lower than it would be to hire me as a full-time teacher. And they still get to put my picture in their website and claim that, like, look, we have such an international department.
Very,
we have
very abusive.
Like, we have so many professors from so many different backgrounds and all of that. So it's much cheaper for the university to do that, even though not ethical.
You know, in America, in the big state universities, a friend of mine told me that you don't even meet a real professor till about your 3rd year. That's how scary it is. It is either graduate students teaching the class or adjuncts, maybe an associate professor, but no full-time staffers. And the administration continues to give themselves raises, big checks. Look, it was, wow, thank you so much for coming to the show. I appreciate it so much.
It's okay. It's my pleasure.
And I hope we can have you back sometime in the future.
Yes, of course.
To talk about your dissertation.
I feel that it would be a very boring and very dense program. I think that we could find something else to talk about that our listeners would enjoy more.
Something more colorful, maybe, fun. Yeah, of course. But we do enjoy this because a lot of our listeners are in the educational field and want to. Some of them are listening from overseas, and they come here to study too. So this is an international program as well, radio program. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you again.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. You know where to find me.
I know exactly where to find you. Thank you very much, Beatriz. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.